Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all in one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Monday, April the 15th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams has produced the program. You'll be speaking with David when you pick up the phone to give us a shout and in the queue and on the air. On the topic, your choosing. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, it's toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM. Which is 86-26. Will Team Canada win the Women's World Championships for the after losing last year on home ice to go down and play in Utica, New York, and they get a victory over their arch rivals, the Americans, 6-5 in overtime. Danielle Sergnacny scored the golden goal at about 15 or 16 of the overtime. The Americans got caught with too many players on the ice, so Canadians get a power play and make the best of it. And Captain Canada, Marie-Philippe Poulin, a couple of goals, of course, always there in the biggest games with the biggest goals. She actually gave us the lead at 5-4 before they sent it off to OT. So pretty great stuff. Congratulations to Team Canada. And Team Guju, man, oh man, their 15th Grand Slam victory. So now they win the Players' Championship. And you can hear Brad Guju in his voice. You can see it in his face. The lads are absolutely exhausted. It's been a long year. So right off the World Championships, where they finished second, of course, losing to Nicholas Edin, Team Sweden, in the final. So they were second on the podium. This time, one step up. Same as Joel Tornaz from Italy. So that's who they beat yesterday in the 8th end with absolutely brilliant shot from Guju. They take it 7-6. What a season, right? 6th Brier, second in the Worlds, another Grand Slam, another Players' Championship, and that's it for the season. They'll be back, of course, the Grand Slam of curling coming to St. John's at the Mary Brown Centre next fall as well. All right, just because I love it, Newhook with a nice night again, continuing his extremely successful season after the return from injury. Goal and assist on a Saturday night, nothing wrong with it. So yeah, there you go. And anyway, I'm sneaking this one in there, bit of an inside joke for my sons. What's up, brother? Special teams, special plays, special players. There you go. Did I get that right, Dave? Not bad. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so today, celebrated in Major League ballparks throughout the league, it's Jackie Robinson Day. It was on this date in 1947 that Jackie Robinson became the first black to play in the majors, of course, signing and playing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, now the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay. So over the weekend, I was really thinking about and wondering how it was going to unfold today on Confederation Hill with the snow crab protest. People have been whipped up into an emotional frenzy. I get it, but now the protest apparently has been called off. There's a lot to this. So they agreed upon this between the Association of Seafood Producers and the FFAW. They agreed on $3 per pound as the minimum, the floor that will be paid. Then there's going to be reconsideration possibly if the market reaches $6.50 American. All right. Then it's the thought that maybe people are clamoring for no holdback this year. So I'm not 100% sure how the holdback works, but at the end of the season, they're going to go back and revisit whether or not there's an increased market share that will need to be paid to the crab harvesters. So this has been agreed upon. Now, the holdback, I think, is still a sense of concern for harvesters. There's also folks who are not enterprise owners, but deckhands, whether or not they'll get any of that money if when it gets paid out in the fall. All right. So that's a deal struck between the union and ASP, but I'm not too sure that it's a deal that's appreciated by many of the harvesters. You know, there's always going to be an adversarial relationship between processors and harvesters, but the division inside the ranks of harvesters is also quite interesting. You know, leading up to this settle of a price, $3 at the floor, there was people who wanted to get out, especially those with smaller quotas. And, you know, people even telling other harvesters who were out at the herring, for instance, to stop. You know, want to make sure that the processing plants are empty. No landed product by our harvesters. And, of course, then the concept is they would truck in product from elsewhere. So there's still a lot in play here, and I'm not so sure that the majority of harvesters, are thrilled with this deal. I was worried about what the protest was going to look like and feel like, and the tone, and the tenor, and the behavior, because people were mad. I mean, if you follow along on their Facebook forum, people are absolutely frustrated at the end of their rope. Not so sure that this deal settles some of those emotions at this moment in time. But if you're a harvester or processor, or Mr. Pretty or Mr. Loader, and want to chime in and walk us through this, especially the concept of the holdback, which the harvesters were quite clear. On top of controlling agreements and increased capacity and foreign ownership and outside buyers, the holdback issue was front and center as well. And that has not been addressed in this particular deal. There's also questions about these buyer's licenses. So there's some 30 applications for buyer's licenses at the government. 3 of those would be for outside buyers. Now, this still allows for the outside buyer to come to town. Harvesters will continue to look across the Gulf and say, well, they're getting $4 plus. In Nova Scotia, how was $3 settled upon here? Even if there is an opportunity for reconsideration. So there's still plenty of work to do on this file. It might get us through this snow crab season, this lobster season, but I don't think the tale is told for the future. It's remarkable to me that since the 6-week tie-up last year, that we have not seen all the hard work done that would hammer out a formula that sides would understand what they're getting themselves into, percentage of market share, and there's even a disagreement there. The FFAW says market share now looks somewhere around 38%. The ASP says it's more like 53%, given the fact that the weight of landed crab is not the same as the weight after processing and sent into the market. So the protest is called off, but that doesn't mean that the protest concerns have gone away with this particular deal. So if you want to take it on from either side, let's do it. All right. So tourism season is here, and I've been trying to wrap my mind around what sort of issues the tourism sector would like the government to get involved with when we talk about access to and the cost of rental vehicles. So it's still tiresome and bothersome to harken back to what impacts of the pandemic were, but when travel pretty much ceased, the rental car companies, they just shrank their fleets demonstrably, and then consequently they're having a hard time rebuilding them. Access to a vehicle. The manufacturers are giving preferential treatment to the retail customer, not the rental car companies. So trying to find one is all bad enough, but then you look at the average cost of renting a car from St. John's International Airport fluctuates between $1,300 and $2,500. That's pretty much out of reach when you talk about the lack of ease to get here, the cost of flying in and out of Newfoundland and Labrador. Add to it that rental fee. That's something I would imagine many tourists are balking at. We've heard from tourism operators in different parts of the province that know full well if their potential customers are unable to get a rental and or afford a rental, they're going to cancel their bookings, whether it be at an Airbnb or a hotel or whatever the case may be. So it's a problem. People will look to the issues surrounding insurance and liabilities. And now, yes, Turo is still available. I remember speaking with a lady last year on this program. I think they had 3 or 4, maybe even 5 vehicles that they put out on the Turo platform. They made a business out of it. Did you just put up 6 figures there, Dave? Yeah, wow. So they made a business out of Turo, which is your ability to use your own private vehicle as a rental. And it comes with insurance coverage from Turo. We've gone through those particular steps. It has been quite lucrative for some individuals willing to put their own car into the rental market. But it's maybe not even something that some of the tourists are even aware of. So I don't know how we communicate that to the world's travelers, that, you know, just because you can't get an accessible, affordable unit from pick a company budget, then maybe there's another option out there for you. But that is going to be a concern. If you're operating outside of the major centres, then you may indeed see some cancellations come your way because of that issue in particular. And also, talking about pandemic behaviours and spending and household spending and whatnot, there was a massive rush for people to buy things like ATVs, boats, and RVs. it became became all the rage. Now all of a sudden the market is absolutely flooded. People are trying to sell their RVs. The sale of brand new RVs plummeted some 20% last year. So it's a buyer's market. For those of you who are maybe talking about a staycation once again this year and have maybe considered the concept of an RV in the past, well, this is the year to buy them. But for the Umbrella Association representing RV dealers, this is a problem. It's one thing to see a big spike and a real influx of cash and profitability if you were selling these vehicles, but now all of a sudden 20% is a long way down. So we've seen lots of ebbs and flows and issues regarding whether it be the installation of heat pumps and mini splits and all the rest of it. Jobs were created, the industries were all abuzz, and now with the change of tune and subsidies and supports and or travel restrictions, then we see things like all of a sudden the RV, the recreational vehicle, they're out there. So if you want to get one, this might be the year. All right, still hearing some of the concerns people are talking about regarding the carbon tax from every angle, and we can take it on today. Already heard from half a dozen people this morning that said they did not get their April 15th quarterly carbon tax rebate. That's because of tax filings. Like every other government program, until you file your taxes, you're not going to get it, whether it be HST or child tax benefit, and yes, the carbon tax. And yes, even if you did get it, it's down. The tax implication was pretty clear from the federal government. If you didn't file your taxes by the 15th of March, you were going to have to wait. So on the date of filing, we're told you're going to have to wait 6 to 8 weeks after you file your taxes to get the rebate. You will get it, but it won't be today. And yes, the rebate is down, simply because of the carve-out and carbon tax on home heating fuels. What was $164 last year for an individual is now $149. For families of 4, your rebate check will be $298. Rural residents do get a 10% top-up. There's talk in the House of Commons about that even increasing further. And if you want to take on the whole carbon tax conversation today, we can. But the fact you didn't get your rebate today is because you didn't file your taxes on time. And on time, so says the federal government, was the 15th of March. Okay, let's get into it. Excellent story in the news today, and I think it would be something that many people in this province should be, it's not for me to tell you what to do, maybe will consider. And that's, we know that there is an adult literacy concern in the province, and it's long been the case. And some of that may indeed stem from the fact that people possibly didn't finish high school. We'll get into absenteeism now in a second. So at the Discovery Centre, they're offering adult basic education. You know full well that if you didn't like school when you were a full-time student, and maybe you quit early or maybe you struggled, and thinking, there's no way I want to face the anxiety of going back into the classroom. But one of the key indicators for adult health will be academic achievement. So getting high school might be a nice step forward. There's one young lady quoted in the story. She went back and got her high school equivalents, and now she's in the pharmacy technician program. So, an opportunity to get a real meaningful career under her feet. And so the Discovery Centre, they have campuses in St. John's, Clarenville, Harbour Grace. So if you have not completed it, maybe just check out what they're offering. They're even giving you some tutorials about what the adult basic education program looks like, whether it be on Facebook Lives or other opportunities. So we know we have that particular concern here in the province, and I would imagine many parts of the country. So they're offering your opportunity to get your, do they still call it the GEDE, or is high school equivalency, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to put this one back out in the front burner because I think it's a major community story. And it's about the concept of chronic absenteeism. We were raising this flag and ringing this bell back in 2019 when the Child Youth Advocate brought forward the updated numbers in this province. Chronically absent means you miss at least a month of school. And it's a huge problem. The facts are clear. If you're chronically absent in grade 6, 75% of those students will not graduate from high school. Getting us right back to this Discovery Centre story. This is not just a Newfoundland and Labrador issue. This is a nationwide issue. But the numbers here in this province are off the charts. And this is not an opportunity to blame politicians for this particular story because it's a school community issue. It's between the parents and, yes, the school. But there's so many issues as to why you might not be in school. People talk about transportation or poverty or domestic violence or this concept of bullying at school. And so more and more children are missing at least a month or more of school. Again, for this province, the numbers are off the charts. So if they have made direct correlation between academic achievement and a healthy adulthood, here's the numbers one more time. 2/3 of secondary school students were chronically absent in 22-23. That's up from just under half in 2018-19. That's all according to the Department of Education. For elementary students, the rate more than doubled from 23 to 50% over the same period. Learning disabilities, mental health concerns, all the rest. Now, yes, the government does indeed play an active role to understand why children are out of school and try to help families and encourage children to get back into school. It's one thing, given your experience during the pandemic, to say, well, I'll just check Google Classroom. But there's all sorts of other issues that are important when you talk about presence in school. It's socialization, even though that can be compromised with bullying and being isolated or under siege as one individual or another. But we've got to figure this one out. I heard from Don Coombs at the Federation of School Councils. In some places in the world, they've called it an actual national crisis. In the UK, in the US, because again, it's not just unique to this province and or to this country. Add to it the concept of learning loss throughout the pandemic, and this is going to be a growing problem. I'm going to say or opine that in 10, 15, 20 years from now, if this does not get turned around and we stem the tide, then we're going to say, I wonder why we didn't pay more attention to this and do something about it. We talk about the possibility for economic sustainability, economic growth, long-term viability of the province. If we don't get this figured out, and which will have a direct relationship with the decline in math, science, and reading scores, which are also extremely problematic. So I've got to put that story out there one more time. But of course, it's simply not going to rest on the shoulders of a Minister of Education. But between Justice and Community Services and Health and Social Development and yes, the Department of Education, they're all going to have to play an active role in coming up with some sort of actual tangible plan to figure this one out. I mean, the numbers are unbelievable. Here we go. 2/3 of secondary school students chronically absent in 22-23, up from under half in 18-19. Then you look at elementary students, the rate more than double, 23 to 50% over the same period. Unsustainable, to say the very least. You want to talk about it? We can do it. And back in the news, I'm not sure what instigated this, and it's still important, though. It's the concept of the morgue overflowing at the Health Sciences Centre and bodies. When it was first reported, there were some 28 bodies stored in freezer units outside of the hospital. I would imagine this boils down to the same issue that impacts so many things that we touch and feel and see, and that's simply cost of living issues. It is pretty costly to have a funeral, whether it be a burial and or a cremation, and the death benefits that are available, funeral expense benefits that are available, haven't changed in so long that they're simply nowhere near reflective of the kind of supports that some people need. So the provincial grant for people that are on income support, even though you can apply, even if you're not on income support, is $2,338. It hasn't changed in 2 decades. The CPP benefit is up to $2,500, hasn't changed since 1998. Now, the federal government will say they can't make any adjustment to the CPP benefit. Why? Because it's a shared responsibility between the federal government and provincial governments, but that story is back in the news. You want to take it on? We can do it. All right. So federal budget day tomorrow. I don't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of issues that we haven't already heard approached by the federal government here in their wave of pre-budget announcements, of which there have been many. So they're talking about the National School Food Program to feed an additional 400,000 students, $1 billion. Then they're talking about all the different housing strategies, $6 billion in the infrastructure fund, more $400 million extra in the housing accelerator fund, all these types of things, making housing more fair for renters, not for profits. Different issues regarding your mortgage. Now, okay, not so sure some of this is really good idea, but I'll wait and hear from you on it. So yes, come August the 1st, if you are an insured mortgage holder, you're going to be able to extend your amortization period from 25 to 30 years. It'll feel good, but when we talk about compound interest, I'm sure the people more happy about this than anybody else are the banks, the lenders, the mortgage brokers. But there's also the concept of being able to, and I don't know how many Canadians this will actually hit, but they're increasing the amount you can withdraw from your RRSP from $35,000 to $60,000. How many first-time homebuyers are actually sitting on that kind of scratch inside their retirement plan? Okay. Also, when you withdraw from your RRSP, they say that they're extending the amount of time before you have to begin the repayment, because you have to pay it back into your retirement plan. They're extending that from 2 years to 4 years. This probably feels really good for potential first-time home buyers, and they talk about making your rent payments as part of your overall credit score report. But the issue is on supply. So yes, this will feel good for potential first-time buyers, but when we incentivize more demand on an already crippled supply, then are we making things worse by government policy? It really feels like it on this front. Incentivizing demand when demand is already the problem, because the supply's not there. And yes, we can talk about all the big dollars and all the big headlines and the billions of dollars flowing in towards the supply issue. It's going to be years before these home starts, to where we need them, are going to satisfy population growth, immigration and otherwise. Last year across the country, home starts were around 232,000. By the look of what CMHC says, the housing starts are going to have to be more akin to 800,000 per year. How quick can we get there? And of course, we can talk to construction associations and what have you, because they have their own distinct concerns on this front. But anyway, you want to take it on? We can do it. One thing I'll be thinking about and looking for in the federal budget tomorrow, with the huge spending and the huge debt and the huge deficit, the opportunity for, yes, kicking the proverbial can down the road, but will we see tax increases tomorrow? The spending levels are absolutely out of control. The Taxpayers Federation is calling for a balanced budget. That's nowhere in the offing. They're talking about spending cuts. That's probably not happening either, given the wave of pre-budget announcements we've seen. So will there be an increase to your taxes? We're also keeping our eye today on the by-election out on Fogo Island, Cape Friels, after the passing of Derek Bragg. And away we go. Very quickly, on behalf of a listener and an emailer, so they were taking a walk around Kitty Vitty Lake and around the Kitty Vitty Lake area, and they found a ring. If you think you lost a ring as you were down around Kauai Vita for a walk, we know who's got it. So if you contact us, we'll be happy to try to help you out. We're on Twitter or VOCM Openline. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. In addition to the whole Turo and rental car shortage, we now know that ride sharing in the form of Uber is coming to town. There's calls for there to be some tightening legislation to afford some legal protections for Uber drivers. Oh, very quickly. On that front, I heard from someone saying that they had a real problem with the department trying to get their Class 4 license accepted so they can be a rideshare driver. But back in October, Minister of Service NL, Sarah Studley, said that drivers with a Class 5 license for passenger vehicles or light trucks will no longer need to do a written or road test to get a Class 4 license. So I'm not even sure what the problem is with trying to get someone to recognize your Class 4 license. That's a bit of a confusing one. You want to fill in those blanks for me? Let's do it. The president of the Federation of Labour is Jessica McCormick. She's bringing that story forward, looking for legal protections for the gig workers, including Uber drivers. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Jessica McCormick is the president of the Federation of Labour. She joins us on line number one. Jessica, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Patty. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Happy to have you on the show. You know, the gig economy is a big part of what's going on out there, and what comes with it is probably oftentimes a lack of legal protection. When you talk about Uber drivers and other gig workers, what are they not covered by?
Yeah, so right now, Uber drivers, gig workers, Skip the Dishes, all of these companies that are, operating either a ride-hailing app or food delivery apps, don't classify their workers as employees. They're considered independent contractors, which means that the protections that are offered to other workers under our provincial labor standards legislation do not apply if you're an independent contractor. So in terms of minimum wage laws, in terms of, provisions for termination, severance, overtime pay, all of those types of things, you wouldn't have access to those rights under our labor standards as a gig worker, as opposed to, a worker in another workplace.
How about the provinces? If I remember correctly, reading the story last week, BC changed the legislation regarding minimum wage. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So, and what we're seeing, in Canada and the provinces where these companies operate, but also in other, parts of North America, is that provinces and states are now trying to go back and fix the problems that have arisen since these companies have started operating in their jurisdiction. So BC is the most recent example, and they have gone into their labor standards legislation to try to classify those workers as employees so they have access to, minimum wage standards, employee expense standards, because as you know, you're paying out expenses to work for these apps, tip protection, pay transparency, those types of things. So now those workers in BC are captured under that legislation. I think there's still some gaps that, advocates in BC are looking for. But what we're saying in Newfoundland and Labrador is we don't have to wait. We should be doing this work now. We've seen what's happening in other parts of the country, and it shouldn't be a wait and see approach. It should be a proactive approach to ensure we're protecting those workers.
When it comes to legislation requiring that they pay out at least minimum wage, wage. I get that because that's something we can actually measure. They'll be logged on as working, available for a ride through their own application. But when it comes to workers' compensation and employment insurance, given the fact that they make their own schedule, do you have an understanding about how we apply workers' compensation coverage? Because, for people who are on a schedule and a relationship between their employer and employee, we can figure it out based on a schedule that's available from workers' comp. How would it apply to things like the gig economy and Uber?
Yeah. So in British Columbia, what they've done is include those workers under the definitions in their Workers' Compensation Act so that they can qualify for the benefits under the Act. But then similar to some of those other provisions you talked about, it would be, captured under the engaged hours that a worker is either driving, has a passenger in the car, things like that. That is a tricky thing to try to deal with, Patty, because as you know, if you're and taxi drivers experience this, but other ride-hailing drivers experience it as well. You could deal with an assault from a passenger or a potential passenger in between those engaged hours. So it is a really tricky thing to try to capture. And the reason why they've made this change in British Columbia is because a worker was assaulted by a passenger, and so that really drove the advocates there to make sure that they have some access to workers' compensation benefits. But it's not a simple solution. It takes some time, and it just feels like we're kind of waiting to see what happens here.
Do we have any idea in this province or across the country just how many people have the side hustle working in the said gig economy? Because it could be something that they do, that's all they do, but can also simply be an add-on to maybe an underpaying full-time job.
Exactly, yeah. So Statistics Canada released a report just, I think, early in March that showed how many people are working in the gig economy as of the end of 2022. I think that was the measure that they had for it. So they had around 900,000 people in Canada were doing gig work as their main job. And then another 1.5 million had done some form, not as a main job in addition to that. So it's quite a huge number. I don't have an exact number here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but it's a significant number of people that are going towards this work as their main source of employment. And that's what is particularly concerning to me, Patty, because it means that there is a growing number of workers who are engaged in full-time work that don't have adequate workplace protection.
Fair enough. I just want to pick your brain a little bit on the most recent budget here provincially. Very different this go around because in years past you would be participating in a lock-in just like members of the media. So we had an idea what was in it so that we could adequately report once the Minister of Finance stood in the House of Assembly. This year, it took a while for us all to sift through the budget to actually see what's in there. Now, budget debate will happen in the House of Assembly beginning today as they reopen. But what were some of the key takeaways? Well, actually, let me prompt you by talking about early childhood education.
Yes.
I know this is one of the issues that the Federation of Labour is talking about because it's one thing for the government to say we're creating spaces, but for the early childhood educators themselves, a couple of things. It's the working conditions, it's the rate of pay, and it's the lack of benefits. For instance, enrolled in the provincial pension plan. So what's the Federation of Labour saying on the ECE issue?
Yeah, I mean, we are still, this is part of our pre-budget consultation with the Minister of Finance, and we put a lot of emphasis on this point, and we released a report on it a few weeks ago that, right from the mouths of ECEs, this is what they're looking for. And what we heard loud and clear was that wage grid that was released by the provincial government not too long ago is inadequate for them. And most of them, as you have said, don't have access to things like health and dental benefits. They don't have access to, a retirement provision, either RRSP or a pension plan, and they need those types of things to stay in the workforce. What we heard in our survey is that a huge number, more than 40%, 50% of ECEs are considering leaving because they don't have access to those types of benefits, and a huge number of them are working well past the retirement years. I'm using air quotes on that, Patty, because it's really hard to retire for a lot of people right now. So we made a plea to the government to introduce something in this budget that would support ECEs, and it wasn't there. And I'll tell you, Patty, that we are still going through those budget documents to try to, sort through what's in there, look for additional information on it all. But I was very disappointed that we didn't see something in the budget for ECEs because they're really looking for it, and that's incredibly important, not just to people working in that sector, but to people working in other jobs who can't return to work after they have a child because they don't have access to childcare.
And important to those children and their families. I mean, 90% of your brain development is before you even go to kindergarten. So getting this right, it's not just about $10 a day, but it's about the PCEs and the numbers of them, people willing to stay in the workforce, people willing to join the workforce. At this moment in time, I'd be hard-pressed to know too many people that are saying, oh, that looks like a place for me. I hear all the concerns and issues and lack of benefits. I want to be an early childhood educator. Maybe not. Appreciate the time. Jessica, would you like to add anything else this morning?
No, that's it, Patty. I just, again, calling on the provincial government to do something proactive here and not wait until we have to deal with this problem after the fact like other provinces are. And I'll be interested to see what happens in the House of Assembly this week.
Appreciate your time. Stay in touch, Jessica.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jessica McCormick, President of the Federation of Labour. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Colin, you're on the air.
Morning, Mr. Daly. How are you this morning?
Doing okay. How about you?
Good, thanks. I want to talk about the events over the weekend in the Middle East. Iran's attack on Israel.
If it wasn't all bad enough what's happening in Gaza, and of course including what happened on the 7th of October, the addition of Iran to the conversation, which I think was inevitable, is particularly scary, I'll call it.
Yeah, it's a major escalation in the conflict in that region. We now have an attack by Iran from Iranian soil directly onto Israeli soil. And in this incident that happened the weekend, it bypassed Iran's terrorist proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah and others. So this is a direct confrontation between two nation states. And it's a major escalation. And it's just a small part of the mosaic, I think, in the Middle East and the security concerns in that region and by extension globally. The elephant in the room still is, I believe, Iran's nuclear ambitions. Apparently, according to some experts I listened to on the weekend on some of these shows on television and the cable news networks, Iran has enough nuclear material now for 3 nuclear warheads, and they're within 6 to 12 months of being able to put them on a missile system and deliver them towards Israel. But
let's just back it up a quick second. So the Iranians strike, they say, because they accuse Israel of a strike on their consulate in Damascus, right?
Yep.
So that's the justification. The Israelis have not said they actually did it, but the Iranians believe it to be true. There's also, when we talk about the Middle East, it's pretty important to include the historical context, because up until the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979, these countries were allies. I mean, talk about coming from 79 to today, where Iran doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist. They're calling for the eradication of Israel and Israelis. So this is pretty wild stuff. I mean, I think some of the quotes coming from then Iranian leader, the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, talking about Israel being a cancerous tumor, and undoubtedly, eventually, I don't know what the direct quote was, to be uprooted and destroyed. So since 79, when they were allies, to today, this has been bubbling for decades.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's been fomenting, especially since the fall of the Shah in the late 1970s, and all the other stuff that went with that, the hostages that were taken in the embassy and stuff, and the withdrawal of from that event, the disengagement of the United States directly with Iran through diplomatic channels. A lot of this now is going on through back channeling, through the Swedes or the Swiss or somebody else, some other neutral third party. And, so this is a very dangerous situation. It's, you have other countries like Russia and China, they're sitting on the sidelines, they're watching this. But I think we have to ask the question, what would it take to draw them into this conflict? Any type of nuclear exchange between Iran and Israel would probably do that, in my humble layman's opinion.
And the amount of armament being sold to and provided to the Israelis by some of its key allies is having an indirect impact on this particular addition to the conflict. It's sort of hard to break it down, because all of a sudden, depending on your commentary that you offer, you're either so-called pro-Hamas or you're an anti-Semite or the other way around. It's really been particularly difficult conversation to have, because, you know, a protest talking about women and children starving in Gaza does not make you an anti-Semite. You know, if you're calling for the eradication of Jews, then you are. Same thing on the other side of the coin, right? So how we get to meaningful, not only individual conversations like this, but at the table of world leaders, they're all having a wicked time tripping over themselves here, trying to say anything purposeful or meaningful out loud.
Yeah, it's you know, they want to be politically correct too, right? And that's part of the problem. I think it's nobody is really willing to take the bull by the horns here and state what needs to be stated. That there needs to be a peace in that region. You can put down borders, draw lines in the sand, and say on this side of the border is one sovereign nation state, and on the other side of this line is another sovereign state. You know, that borders are man-made.
Yeah.
But whether it's one state or two states or three states or whatever, but there has to be an enduring peace. And as long as Iran, which is the puppet master here, has, as you correctly point out, called for the annihilation of the Zionist state, there's going to be no peace. We're talking about two-state solutions or one state or whatever. That's meaningless. It's just renders the whole conversation moot, in my opinion, because Iran is dedicated to the destruction of Israel, and so are its proxies. So this Iran has to be dealt with. I don't know how we're going to deal with them, but before we get on to any two-state solutions or one state or any other type of national agreements between countries or potential countries or recognition of the West Bank or Gaza as independent states, we had to deal with the Iran issue, and what happened over the weekend, Patty, is just a major escalation of that. And Israel, you know, everybody is calling for Israel not to retaliate and to take a powder on this, but that's not going to happen.
No. Well, people have to want peace before there can be peace. Same thing I think can be said in Russia and Ukraine. And, you know, even when people use the word genocide, which is a really emotionally loaded word, and I'm told, well, there is no genocide because the last genocide happened in Rwanda. And curiously enough, this is the 30th anniversary between the 7th of April and maybe the 19th or something, July 1994. But if that's the benchmark for what constitutes a genocide, then hopefully we'll never see another one again, because there were some 800,000 people killed, somewhere in and around that number, some 250 to 500 Tutsi women. So it was the Tutsis and moderate Hutus were the target of this Rwandan civil war and the genocide. So, but if that's the benchmark, then all of a sudden that word becomes meaningless, because we can't, if it requires the annihilation of 800,000 people, then genocide has a very narrow definition. I'll give you the final thoughts before we take a break here, Colin.
You know, it's just what you picked up on there with genocide and defining it as one set of criteria or another. This gets bogged down on legal terminology, and lawyers argue this in front of the Hague and other international courts of justice and tribunals. And it may fit strict criteria according to one convention or statute or case law, but it might not. It might be overturned, or might be different interpretations in some other international form. But it's the killing of people. No matter how you strike, no matter what how you phrase it, whether it's in Rwanda or what happened in the Balkans in the 1990s, or what's happening today in Ukraine with Russia. It's just a mass slaughter of innocent civilians, people who are just trying to go about living their daily lives like you and I are. And it's really unfortunate that there cannot be peace. And like I said, with Iran, we have to deal with that country. I don't know how we're going to deal with them. They are committed to the destruction of Israel. You either believe that Israel has the right to exist as a nation state, or you don't. If you don't, as Iran does, everything else that you try to do with the two-state solutions and incorporating the West Bank and Gaza is futile.
I don't know why I brought up Rwanda. I guess because just the use of the word genocide. Now all of a sudden I've got those visuals of the rivers full of bodies and oh my God. Colin, I appreciate the time this morning. Thanks for the call.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, before we get to that break, let's go to line number 3. Stephanie, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
Happy to do it.
I just wanted to give a little plug-in for some Mrs. Roper pub crawls that are happening across the island in over the summer, I guess, and into the fall. We're hosting one in Gander, and actually it went from, just organizing 20 or 30 women to wear their duster and dress as Mrs. Roper and kind of spend a fun afternoon together to about 230 ladies, and we're doing it over 2 days. There's also one happening in Grand Falls, and the organizer there has got quite a big event planned. And I think it all generated from seeing what a fun time they had in Twellingate doing a Mrs. Roper pub crawl.
I mean, are people being asked to not only wear the duster, we're talking about wearing a caftan or a muumuu?
They're absolutely going to wear all that, and everybody is actually even wearing the Helen Roper wig, which is a curly redhead wig and some dangly jewelry, and we're going to get together and just have the positive vibe that Helen kind of brought to the table, which was a genuine love of just having fun, even though poor old Stanley didn't really want to do too much of that. So it's actually really taken off, which is, kind of a surprise to me, who's just doing this for the first time, but it's become an event whereby for Gander, and I know Grand Falls, our towns are kind of coming together and we're sharing some ideas, so that's kind of fun to network with other women in other towns. But our ticket and the ticket in Grand Falls is also including a donation to a local charity. So for instance, in Gander, $10 of every ticket is going to the breast cancer support retreat that they're hosting, where Yvonne Jones and Dr. Hagee are going to be attending. So it's an opportunity to get together as women, to do something fun in the afternoon, and to also donate to a local charity. So I think that kind of checks off all the boxes for women. Plus, they don't have to get dressed up. They can throw on a duster and enjoy the day.
I've never worn one, but the muumuu looks quite freeing.
Definitely. And, it's a chance for women to, just kind of be comfortable. And our ticket actually includes a bus, so they don't have to drive anywhere. Each location we go to, their drink is going to be included, so they don't have to bring a purse. We're going to hit up the International Lounge at the airport, so that's something unique to Gander we'll be doing. And we're doing it over 2 days because it just grew so big out of nowhere. So, I think you're going to see more of this across the island, and each town is going to bring in their own unique vibe, and I think each town is going to have, their kind of own little charity that they're going to donate to, and you're going to see a lot of Mrs. Ropers on the street, Patty.
I'm looking forward to it. It's just too bad that in neither of these locales you got a pub called the Regal Beagle to sneak into.
Well, you never know. Maybe St. John's will take that on, and we'll have a big old convention in there one year.
Listen, say hello to Larry for me.
Indeed I will. So thank you, and we've still got about 14 tickets left in Gander for Monday, so if anybody was thinking about coming in, we do have people coming from St. John's and Grand Falls to attend ours. There's still, I think, 14 tickets left, so they can kind of look us up on social media and send us a message.
I appreciate this morning, Stephanie. Have an awesome time.
Okay, thanks. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. Bye-bye. I don't know if I'm supposed to admit stuff like this out loud, but I think I shared the same sentiment with the vast majority of young men across the world that watch Three's Company, that Christmas Snow was a favourite of ours. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Reg, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy Daly. How are you this morning?
Not too bad at all. How about you?
Oh, I'm good, buddy. Listen, Paddy, I just had the calling this morning. I was up bright and early on the road, and I heard Mr. Purdy there to interview him, and my God, it's amazing, how things change. When he spoke about everything, it was a historic day. It was a good news day. Seems like we're going to celebrate. We got... Late last night, now, don't forget, they come to an agreement that they were going to make the fishermen happy and give them $3, and everything was going to be hunky-dory, which I don't think so. But it's a bit of a coincidence, Paddy. There's a by-election now down our way today, starting 8 o'clock this morning, going till 8 o'clock tonight. A hell of a lot of fishermen involved, I guarantee you. and a lot of fishermen not too happy about what was going on.
Just so I understand, Rich, because I've heard that from others this morning about, the timing is fishy or there's no coincidence here. But of course, I'm not even sure with the involvement of the provincial government here. If the deal was struck between the FFAW and ASP, and yes, there is a by-election today, no doubt, but if there was, say, for instance, political intervention here to try to curry vote favours in Fogo Island Cape Friels, this announcement probably would have come from the provincial government. So where do you see the coincidence?
Well, Paddy, it's strange because this has been going on. I mean, they had the same old last year and the year before.
Yep.
I mean, there's only a couple of weeks ago they were in on the hill there protesting, and I guarantee you right now, Puri wasn't so nice a guy back then, according to what I've seen and what I heard. But this morning, Greg Pretty got on, he thanked them, and he almost showed him a kiss over the phone, but that's irrelevant. But there's something, I say fishy, yes, because you hit the right word, fishy, regardless, provincial, federal, or whatever. Don't you think that somebody got through to the guys of Ottawa and said, listen, now listen, don't forget now, Paddy, we got election coming up now another year, federal election, and we got a lot of unhappy people here in Newfoundland, regardless if it's got anything to do with the credit picture or whatever. I mean, the carbon tax now is not going over all that great, but the people in Newfoundland, considered another couple of weeks we're going to be paying $2.10 a litre for gas, for God's sake, But to me, it seems, they've been bickering all week, and now they were all ready to get on the buses this morning. They had all that geared up. Everybody's good to go, all hands on deck. And we're going to St. John's, and we're going to rant and roar, and we don't give a damn about the horses or whatever. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Don't get on the buses. We got everything took care of. I know it's late, but we got, the people of Newfoundland want to hear this. It's great news. So I don't know, Paddy. Maybe I'm like Bill Rowe used to say, I'm out to lunch. But I guarantee you, to me, there's something not right about this picture.
I don't think you're out to lunch. Let's just take it a step further, because one of the key issues that the harvesters were talking about is no holdback. And so they're inside this deal bringing in a so-called independent third party to assess actual sales up to 3 weeks after the season ends and pay a market share of 38.5% to the harvesters. And remains to be seen whether any of that will actually make it to the deckhands. But from what I've seen, and now it's impossible for me to have polled the entirety of the FFAW membership, but it really feels to me like harvesters are not pleased with this deal. So if there was a political calculation to try to get support from fish harvesters, then they probably blew it here, because I've heard from very few that says they're ready to go, this is good enough for me. The vast majority are contacting me saying this is awful, we're embarrassed, and we're furious.
Exactly, Paddy, and I'll tell you something else, my buddy. There's a lot of unhappy fishermen this morning. It's not all that concerned or happy about this, but I guess, they got the green light and they got to do something, whatever. But to me, I'll guarantee you, this is just my personal opinion. I think there's something, like I said, there's something wrong with the picture, but it is what it is, Paddy, and more power to the fishermen. I guess they can get in their boats now, the majority, whoever wants to go out and do what they do best, and hopefully, but I guarantee you right now, Paddy, I wouldn't put no money on next year, because I can pretty well bet that next year we're going to have the same old scenario. There's going to be issues, and there's going to be problems, and then Mr. Fury, God love him, won't be so pretty then. He won't be so nice. So you keep that in mind there, Greg Pretty. Anyway, have a good day and one other time.
Sure.
Congratulations to the King of Curling. I always called him the King, Brad Goose. I've been following him now since even when he started, and that's a long time ago. Got to see him 3 or 4 in person, got my flag signed by him, and been following him, and unfortunately he didn't win the world, but hey, he come back and won the Grand Slam, so good for you, Brad. Keep it up and keep on curling, my son. And you have a good day, Paddy Daly, and take care, my friend.
Appreciate the time, Reg. Take care.
You be good.
You too, sir. Bye-bye. Dave, where do you want me to go here before we get to the news? Okay. Okay, let's go to line number 5. Patrick, you're on the air. Line number 5, Patrick, are you there? Patrick's on hold. Let's go to line number 4. Sam, you're on the air.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing okay. How about you, Sam?
Not too bad. I've had this discussion before about problems in community of Shipcove here, and we're trying to leave with Piccadilly Local Service District and go on to our border with the community, the rest of the community of Shipcove. And Minister Hagee has refused, and we've written letters and calls, and they still don't want us to separate with Piccadilly. They're trying to encourage to incorporate with Piccadilly and Shipcove together, and we don't want to have any part of incorporation, and the community of Shipcove don't want to be regionalization with Piccadilly. What they want, they're willing to accept the rest of Shipcove and Abrams Cove to join with them, but the government does not want us to. They don't want us to go from one local service to the other. They rather want us to incorporate, and we don't want that because we got issues here for going on for 30 years here with bad water, traces of lead in our water, mud in our water. We don't got community services. We don't have a full cleanup garbage pickup. We got garbage from one end of the peninsula on both sides of the road. If you've driven along any of the roads or going in the country, it's sad. And we want to join on with Shipco to hopefully can Molly make some changes with the legal dumping and the garbage all over places. And plus to get better water, we don't have fit to drink. Our well is over 50 years old, and there's not a thing has been done about it. We got a leaking well house over there. There's water's running in, and there's not even we don't even have anything to chlorinate our water. So our water is got two types of bacteria and the E. coli, and plus the lead. So I don't know what we're going to do because they don't want to help us. They don't want to. And then to Mr. Wakeham, we're waiting to get a meeting with him for us and a few of the members, community members here, but we're still waiting on that. We haven't heard anything. That's over a couple of months ago. We requested it as well. So I don't know.
So the last time we spoke, we talked about the tainted water supply. You're saying that nobody's willing to do anything about that? There's been formal testing done by the department, or where are we exactly on the water issue?
That's been test has been done by department, and I thought they all know, they're all aware of these issues, but nobody has taken action. The local service district in Piccadilly hasn't taken action. Our governments haven't taken action, and all we had, like I said, was a notice put on the pump list to don't drink the water. That was it. I called around and we're trying to separate from one community to go with the other community. Not possible to be done. So what do we do? We got no help. Minister Hagee is just completely ignoring us, and our MHA is not meeting with us. So what do we do?
Insofar as access to different types of programs and funding, LSDs versus incorporated municipalities, why is it that you don't want to join an incorporated entity or incorporate yourself?
We want it dark. We're a part of Shipcove. My place I live is in Shipcove. But this part of Shipcove is in the municipality, local service district of Piccadilly. It has been probably for the last 25 or 30 years. So we want to get in with Shipcove so then we can fight together to get something done with our water, because Piccadilly refused to do anything, is completely ignoring us for the last so many years, and there's no monies for to put in anything. We don't know what's going on with the money because nobody's been audited, governments has been monitored. Just here you go, do what you want, and so there's no money for nothing. So we got a will there. We need a new will, and there's no help. And there's nobody's doing anything for us. We're trying and trying and trying. And what can you do? You're kicking a dead horse in the butt. There's no movement.
I don't understand why people are unwilling to do something about trying to do whatever it takes within affordability and understanding the limitations that some small communities have. But tainted water, it's one thing to put up a sign and say don't drink it. It's quite another to want to do something about it. Sam, anything else before we get off to the news break, sir?
No, I just hope that our ministers, that our MHAs, and will try to take our problems serious and do something about it and respond to our requests. Because there's going to be a lot going higher in the Port Peninsula. It's going to be very busy, and we need good drinking water. Right now, we don't have good drinking water. The water is not fit. We could have better drinking water, but there's no monies for it because I don't know what happened to the monies, and we want to meet with our MHA, Mr. Tony Wakeham. He's going to be our next probably Premier Newfoundland, and hopefully that we can get some changes there. Because it's sad. I got elders in the community here, and we can't drink the water. They got no way accessing it. So that's basically what I have to say. Anyway, that's my last thing for today.
I appreciate the time, Sam. Thanks for this.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. And the whole issue regarding clean, potable drinking water. There's somewhere in and around 150 water boil order advisories ongoing at this time in this province. Some communities have had it for years, some communities for decades. Some of the water service systems have been overbuilt and they're not working. They don't have technicians to operate them. Some have never had appropriate water treatment facilities in their community, but this day and age, that's an extraordinary number. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Sharon, you're on the air. Hi, Sharon, on line 1.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Pretty good. I'm kind of grappling with a letter I received from Bell Aligned. It was on February 9th, and it was concerning eliminating my copper landline. Now, I don't have a cell phone, Patty, nor do I choose to have one or want one. And I like my landline because it gives me a sense of security. If there's anything that arises and you really need to get a hold of somebody, that's always a reliable source. Cell phones, however, are not. So I just assumed when I read the letter that everybody was going to have this eliminated. So I was resigned to the fact, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and have to do it. So we have till August the 1st before they totally eliminate it. And so I called the book, and they said you could only book every 2 months. And I said, well, I'm going to hang on to mine as long as I can. So I haven't called to have the service exchanged. So they're changing over to 100% fibre is what it is.
That's right, yeah.
And anyway, I'm living in the Virginia Park area, and my brother lives over a couple of streets from me. So he had to call in somebody from Bell last week. He had an issue with his television service. And he spoke to the technician that was there, and he said, my sister got a letter about her copper landline being taken away and changed over. And he said, I haven't got one in the mail. And she got it in February. He said, am I going to get one? He said, no, sir. He said, you won't. He said, as a matter of fact, he said, you won't be getting yours changed over. And he asked why. And because down here, I don't know about anywhere else in town, on the opposite side of the street, there are no pole lines. So apparently anybody who doesn't have a pole line, they won't be affected by this because of, I presume it's the cost. I am on the opposite side of the street, and not on his street now, but a few streets over, and I have a pole line on the back of my property. But however, the neighbours that are on the opposite side of my street, they don't. So I'm assuming, I haven't been speaking to anybody about it because I never even thought about this scenario happening until my brother spoke of this to me.
Have you been a Bell customer for long?
37 years.
In 2000 and I'm going to say 21 or 22, I also got a letter saying they were considering discontinuing landline services. I kind of threw it away because I do have a cell phone and I'm not too worried about my landline service, but many people are. I mean, this is not unique to Canada either. I mean, there's reports out there what they call the plain old landline service, the POTS. I saw a survey not that long ago. It included the United States, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, maybe some other countries. In 2024, 95% of the households had a landline service. That's down to 37% today. Most telecom companies are not even installing copper wires in new developments these days. No. Australia, New Zealand, the United States, and the UK, they're phasing it out. So the FCC down in the States has given the telcos permission to do exactly that. And it's going away. You're absolutely right. Exactly when, I'm not sure, but that is 100% happening.
But my concern is it's the only reliable source of telecommunication we have if we don't have the electrical grid up and running. And I don't know if I heard this or if I dreamt it. I thought there was a while ago down in the States that the electrical grid was cyber attacked and there was power left, like people lost power all over. And for what length of time, I don't know. But the way the world is now, nobody is safe anymore when it comes to being attacked by cyber attackers. And what better way to eliminate you senseless than attack your electrical grid? Whereas if you have an issue, a catastrophe, a disaster, your copper landline is your only source of communication, guaranteed source, because you can go and charge up your charger and charge up your phone, and if you lose power, you're guaranteed to get so much time, but it's not permanent. So if say, for instance, what happened down in Labrador there a little while ago where they had the ice storm and they were a couple of weeks, and I don't know how much longer, without power. What do you do in those instances if there's a disaster, a major fire, a flood, and somebody's trying to get a hold of somebody? I don't know if people realise like how important it is, even if they don't use it. It is the only thing that we really have that's reliable, totally reliable. And I'm kind of upset about it.
Okay, fair enough. But when it comes to reliability and cybersecurity, and yes, you're right, there has been a hack of not only a electrical grid in the United States, but also a pipeline. So these things are legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
But your cell phone tower and your cell phone service is far more precarious than landline. I mean, people are seeing these types of issues take place fairly frequently in the country, so there's a concern there that is absolutely legitimate. And you're right, the landline has been a very reliable service over the years, but the telecom companies, they see the writing on the wall, right? They have to maintain their systems for the traditional landline where so few people are using it. And so consequently, they're saying, well, it's a loss leader. Why am I doing this? But even if you go to cancel your landline inside your bundle with your internet and your TV, you can pay just as much when you back the landline out, which is why mine still sits on the counter, and the only one that ever calls it is a pollster.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm not even fussy about even having it eliminated from off the property for a simple fact that they're going to have to dig. And I've been reading some comments on the Bell's community forum about people who've had this done, and they were having nothing but problems since they went to fibre with their phones, not getting through on phones. It's almost like there's 2 or 3 people talking at one time on their lines. Just all kinds of nightmarish issues. And in the meantime, I called about it and asked, I said, why is it that you're telling me you're eliminating mine, but there are people here on the street who won't have theirs eliminated because of, and they couldn't answer me. So I got passed around to 3 or 4 different departments, and basically on the end of it, you're getting it whether you like it or not. So you either have it changed over, because it's of no cost to me to have it changed over. If I do it within that time frame up until August. But I said, that's not my issue. My issue is, I said, it's my sense of security, because I don't want to have a cell phone. Don't understand technology. Don't. I won't say I'm too old. It's just I don't absorb things anymore like I used to. If someone sat down and explained something to me, a procedure or how to use something, I would remember it. I don't remember those things anymore. And Patty, there is nobody out there anymore that wants to take the time to sit down and explain things to people, especially older people.
Well, I mean, we're happy to try to help. I mean, insofar as using a cell phone, very fundamental. I know people are sometimes intimidated by technology, but in reality, most of the very fundamental things that people use their phones for, whether it be calls or texts or emails or Facebook or an address book and those types of things, they're very, very easy to get used to, regardless of your age. I can tell you that much, because it does feel like it's kind of overwhelming when you initially get into it, but there's really nothing to it. Not trying to, diminish the fact or dismiss the fact that some people are so-called intimidated by tech, but most of it for the fundamental usage, there's really not much to it. Sharon, I appreciate the time and the concern. I'll add to it, I've had many questions about this. So Bell doesn't even offer DSL internet anymore. Why? Because that relies on copper wires. And then there's the concern with people who do not use the internet and have been paying their bills with Bell with a check or what have you. That's going away, people were told, but here's the case. So Bell sent out a note in people's bills last month saying, is coming very soon, maybe this month. They were going to stop sending paper bills, and you're going to have to pay via email. And some people, not everyone online banks, but the case there, and you can get this settled with your Bell customer support service technician if you're lucky enough to get him on the phone, is if you're 65 or older, have a disability, or don't have the internet, you're still going to be able to get a paper bill. I just wanted to put that out there when we're talking about Bell and billing. Anything else, Sharon, before we have to go?
No, just disappointed that somebody can't give me a straight answer, and that if somebody across the street gets to keep there, because it is being kept. And I've talked to some of the neighbours within the last few days. Theirs is not being eliminated because of the pole. They don't want to put the money in over there on the other side of the street because there's no poles. Nope. But they won't let me keep mine. And that's what bothers me, because I said to the lady, I said, so I need to sell my house and move on the other side of the street if I want to keep it. I said, if that sounds, well, what you're telling me sounds the same way. And that's what, it's the principle thing, Paddy. It's not so much that, technology is moving along and it's moving quite fast for some of us than others. And I understand, there are things that are happening in the world and you just have to get used to it. But it bothers me when some people get to keep a service that I want and they're putting me in that predicament because I'm on the opposite side of the street. That's what bothers me.
Understood. Yeah, you're right. It seems like, the companies which are absolutely part of a monopoly here, and they've got us where they want us. A couple of things. They provide you, like, for instance, with a cell phone and a data plan, and there's so many parts of the province where it's absolutely useless because there is no service. And then they don't want to put money in. So one side of the street versus the other side of the street has different access to very fundamental service. It all sounds a bit much. Sharon, I have to go, but I appreciate your time and your concern.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And, of course, coming to a neighbourhood near you very shortly is a new area code in the province. Right, 879 is going to be added to and work alongside of 709, basically because of the number of lines on the system and the inclusion, of course, with 988 as the mental health crisis line. Let's take a break and we'll come back. We're talking about the ambulance services, transportation of food, province to province, crab, whatever you want to talk about. Talk away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Daly.
Good morning.
Calling about the NL Health Service ambulance takeover. I'm not sure where this is going. We've had some information sessions, but the answers that we're getting back is to be determined, to be determined, to be determined. So we're expected. We just had letters come out this morning basically placing individuals in different pay scales. And most of the people that work in the field where I'm located to are all being started off at a level 1 pay scale. And
so are you a paramedic?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So give us an idea what some of the questions are that you asked that got a to be determined as an answer.
Does our years of experience count for anything? To be determined. What would our pay scale be? Initially, it was to be determined. There's apparently 3 different pay scales, and they're starting. What I've seen so far is everybody off at pay scale 1. I've been in the field now for I'm into my 34th year. So I don't know. It's up for review. I'll give them that. But we don't know if that's all going to be transferred over, all that seniority, all that experience. We don't know if that's going to be transferred over to NL Health Services or not. And right now, it's just we know how government operates. We know the pace that they operate at. And, after serving my region, in this field for so many years, it literally is a kick in the gut, and I don't understand why. We work for a great operator, and right now, as myself and most of my crew, my colleagues that I'm familiar with, if that's the case, then some of us, if not all, are looking at a pay cut. Myself personally, I will be looking at a $4 an hour pay cut to come under NL Health Services. Now, that's up for review. I give them credit for that, but again, we know how government operates.
Fair enough. Those questions about seniority and pay, I asked the Minister directly here on this programme, and there was no answer forthcoming. The biggest problem there is not only the fact that we don't have answers, and people like yourself with 30 years of service might face a pay cut, is that this is happening in June. I mean, it's right around the corner. It was probably a good idea to consolidate some 60 private ambulance service contracts into one authority, but with no answers coming and we're 2 months away from this integrated system launch, then that's obviously a concern, and you're not the first one to bring it to my attention.
No, and the issue becomes, because what happens is we have a letter that's out this morning, and we are being forced to sign this letter accepting the offer that they're giving us. For me, it will be a $4 an hour pay cut. And don't know if my experience and seniority will be carried through. It's up for review, but we don't know that. We don't know if that will happen, if it will ever materialize. So it's concerning that we are being forced. If you want a job in June 1st, you have to sign this letter. If not, you're considered out in the cold.
And you have to sign a letter on the blind.
You got to sign this letter on the blind. We don't know what's happening with it, and it's unfair to the people that served this region. To me, right now, it's like, you know what? They're just building up the overpass again to separate St. John's from the rural areas of Newfoundland.
Dave, I guess it's time we try to revisit this. And we actually asked this question of Jerry Earle, too, about seniority, and he told us, it was ongoing negotiations, but it's going to be hard for the government. If we're talking about the need to keep paramedics, which, of course, has been a concern for a number of years now, then if all of a sudden seniority is not recognised, then here comes another exodus, quite possibly.
Oh, absolutely. I even myself have spoke about heading out west to look for other employment. And that may be the possibility that I have to take. That might be we out in rural Newfoundland, we have mortgages, we have car payments, we have bills to pay, and right off the bat, we're starting with health services, and we get a kick in the gut. You sign this paper, or else you're out.
I appreciate the concerns, and I have no earthly idea how there's not answers to these obvious and important questions at this late stage of the process. I appreciate your time this morning. Hopefully the answers are going to be satisfying to the extent that it keeps you and your fellow paramedics here in the province, because we simply cannot afford to lose more, because we've been losing them. And the other side of this is as well, like, we don't even know what the staffing levels will be. We don't know how many ambulances will be in each region overnight. We don't know what will be there daytime. I mean, where are we going to with this? Are you going to do call volume, placement of vehicles, so that you're only doing 5 or 6 calls overnight in your region, so you're only going to have 2 ambulances responding? Is that the case? If that's the case, then, in some regions, you're going to have probably a 2-hour drive to get to a scene, and then to get back. Are you represented by one of the unions? Are you represented by NAPE?
I am not represented by any union. Our employer has treated us very, very well, and through the goodness of their operations, we were placed way back, a few years back, that if we stick around, they would increase our salary every 2-3 years. And so some of us have, made some decent money, but right now we're being rolled back to a pay scale 1, where we should be up to a pay scale much higher than that. They've presented us, and I don't know, I could be totally wrong with this one, but they've presented to us a pay scale of up to 3. And since I've heard, and this is where I could be wrong, but there's probably a pay scale of 4 and maybe even 5 level. So I don't even know that. So if that's the case, be honest with everybody. Show where we are going and what's expected of us and what we expect of you guys, the government.
A fundamental question. So when the integrated service launches, are you obliged then to all of a sudden join the union, probably NAPE?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so. I just wanted to get that out there for clarity.
Yeah, we have no option in that. We are obligated to be in that union, and right now, I don't know if the union is fighting for us. I don't know if the government is fighting for us. We have no idea. We have zero knowledge of what's happening and where this is going. And then, with that said, government is going to take this over, and they have a tender put out for a new company to come in and take this all over again and start from scratch again. So it's like, what in the world is happening with this stuff? It's crazy.
And
the people in the field that do these trips, do these emergency calls, that go out and rescue the loved ones of the families in our region, I'm sure they're not aware of what's happening, because once the call comes, and if you got an ambulance that's 40 minutes away, it's going to be 40 minutes for them to get to you, and then 40 minutes to get you back to a hospital. Yeah, so it's time that we take a serious look at where this is going.
Yeah, because you're right. We don't know what the model is going to look like. It'll be the old classic hub and spoke. We don't know how many ambulances will be on the road. We don't know how many paramedics are going to be employed. So, and here we go. As mentioned, it's the middle of April, and we're coming on the June 1st when this is going to be launched formally. I appreciate the concerns. We'll go back to the well now with the Minister to try to get some answers.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
I appreciate your time. Take care and stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd probably have some of this stuff figured out at this point. Let's keep rolling. Line number 3, John, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hi there.
How you doing? I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome.
I'm a little bit older, but don't hold that against me.
I won't.
And I was just wondering why I can bring meat from Newfoundland to Labrador or any other part of Nova Scotia, but I can't bring meat from Labrador to Newfoundland or any other part.
Right. It's confusing, isn't it? Well, here's what I was told, because it's not the first time we've had this conversation. For individuals, you are not allowed to transport meat across provincial borders. Now, it happens all the time. People will have meat in their cooler, whether they go camping or whatever the case may be. And because Labrador is connected to the mainland, then it can't be verified that the meat comes from Labrador as opposed to Quebec or elsewhere. And so I think that's why the rule's in place. And Newfoundland, as an island, is isolated, obviously. So it's quite unlikely that someone would bring meat via Marine Atlantic or fly it in here to then just transport it to Labrador. So consequently, the thought is that you'd have inspected abattoirs and other operations that were inspected by the Canadian Food Agency, the CFA.
Beverage information. Yeah. But is Newfoundland part of Canada or what?
It is, yes.
Excuse me, that's awful strange. Like, I'm not going to mention the airline. It'd be bad of me to do that. But I wanted to bring some snails and some aquarium plants from Newfoundland to Labrador, which is part of Newfoundland, and they wouldn't let me. Now, people smuggle stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Of course.
It's not metal. You go to a metal detector, it's illegal for them to strip search you, unless you're coming from an international or to another country.
Then there's tons of restrictions about what you cannot bring into the country from outside.
Yeah, well, yeah. I got does the Esso refinery got over there now?
Sorry, does the Esso refinery?
Yeah, like I worked at the Esso refinery in Halifax.
Okay.
And she's decommissioned now as just a holds. And it was supposed to go over to Come by Chance or somewhere over Newfoundland. I don't know if they did.
I don't know. I know the Irvings kicked the tires of Come by Chance when it was in warm, idle, and up for sale. But of course, the refinery here doesn't even refine traditional products now. What they're doing is producing the sustainable diesel at this point.
Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, Brea, I can't remember the goal, maybe 18,000 barrels, is it? 18,000 barrels a day of that aviation sustainable or renewable diesel product?
Yeah, Jet A, Jet B, but for that, let's get back. I got OCD bad, but hold that against me. Just bear with me.
No problem.
I'm trying to get my thoughts right. I got a high security license from Esso, and they for me to bring something into Canada, I would have to go through all kinds of restrictions. Like lately, Labrador's people here live pretty much off the land, right? And there was caribou brought from Russia or somewhere like that, because we can't hunt our caribou no more.
Yeah, there's a moratorium in place. That's right.
Because of flooding and stuff like that from Quebec dams and stuff like that. I don't know how many killed off, because I'm not a Labradorian per se. I'm moved, married, and my children are here now. But that's not here nor there. But my mind's fluttering again. What else? I going to say now? No, they wouldn't let me take a snail or plant which was brought into Canada and passed all restrictions from a pet shop in the island to my place here in Labrador. Now, I would have to spend like $1,500 or something just to go to Newfoundland or another province or drive there, which would take days for me to get hold something for my pets, right? But you're allowed to bring cats and dogs aboard the plane. Now, do they check all the records of the animals that they're bringing the cats and dogs over here? No, I don't think so, because I have friends that brought little dogs over in kennels, and they never had no papers with them.
I don't know what you have to provide to transport a pet, to be honest with you. I really don't know.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
It is. Would you like to say anything else this morning, John, before I have to take a break?
No, from one Irishman to another. You have a good day now.
Slanja, appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Bob wants to talk about the crab fishery. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Bob, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I wonder why the fish harvesters got an agreement so fast, Paddy. I mean, what's the key to that? It must be a government interference. Maybe they threatened to do away with closed shop. Now the whole thing would fall apart. The union, the cartels, the outside buyers, would be competition. You know, the EI wouldn't be able to be fixed. That every year they make work projects and stamp extension and guaranteed EI every year. And that's the whole history of the fishery. With all this being fixed and the harvesters out on the wharf every spring, driving the population crazy, trying to fix it is a headache when there's only one thing that's causing the whole problem, and that's the closed shop. I mean, why are the harvesters demonstrating against the government? The government is not the employer, and actually they must have interfered between unions and harvesters to bring about an agreement.
Well, you think both sides would be told to keep a secret like that? And not expose that level of interference? I'd be surprised. But a couple of things about $3. It's not the only component here that is of concern for either side. For instance, when they went to the old traditional panel for setting the price, when the ASP put forward $2.60, the FFAW only submitted $2.83, and here we are at $3. So, and I don't think it got settled quickly because they've had since the end of the crab season last year to figure this out.
Yeah, so what's going on, though, Paddy? When someone tries to explain the fishery, don't you end up with a headache? I don't think anyone in Newfoundland really understands the fishery. You see the harvesters out every spring, and everybody is drove off their head trying to watch and wondering how you can fix those things. But you can't have EI guaranteed and have a closed shop and have free enterprise. I mean, John Erfurt can't be stupid. He must know that that's the key to the whole thing, isn't it? The closed shop.
I suppose.
You wonder how they do stuff in other countries and everything, but they don't have the EI, the generous EI system and the fixed EI system, and they don't have closed shops. So that's the answer there, right?
How do you define a closed shop?
You got to buy your fish from the local people that are curing the fish.
But you don't.
That's the word I'm looking for.
You're looking for fishermen or harvesters, I suppose.
Yeah, you got to have the closed shop for a processor that you can't buy anywhere else. That's what I'm trying to.
But they can though.
Can they?
Yeah. I mean, that's been part of the the thorn in the side of fish harvesters here for many, many years is, you'll hear stories like Quebec fishermen landing their catch here to be processed in local plants, the product being shipped in or trucked in. So that actually happens, and that's why the harvesters want the same competition afforded to them. They want the out-of-province buyers to come and say, for instance, if they're paying around $4 across the Gulf, then the thought here is maybe they'll come here and pay $4 for the local product as well. So that's basically what the harvesters on that front, because there's many other things at play here. But yes, the local processors can buy from elsewhere, and up until this agreement, there's been the inability for locals to sell their product out of province if they landed here. Now, they've long had the capability to go ahead and steam across the Gulf and sell it if they want. I mean, that happened in the shrimp fishery last year, but that's basically, they want to level that playing field insofar as competition goes.
If they sail across the Gulf and landed over in Nova Scotia, do the Nova Scotians have automatic check-off to deduct unemployment from the...
No.
So, I mean, now that's on against the union, isn't it? I think the union is scared of John Efford. If he ever, I mean, he seems to be the whole force, and not the union here. He's the face, he's the one organizing the demonstrations. So if they can't, if you bring it over there, so you don't have that freedom actually to bring it over to Nova Scotia and have the union dues. So the union don't like that, do they?
The union dues, my understanding is, if you land your product here and you sell it to a local processor, the plant writes you a check, but the plant takes the union dues out, and then the plant pays the union dues on your behalf to the union.
Is that what happens in Nova Scotia?
I don't know what their process is, but that's how it works here.
Yeah. There's an awful lot going on,
and there is no guarantee of employment insurance for harvesters, and there has been a complication for plant workers too, because when the employment numbers came out last year, it changed a couple of different things regarding employment insurance, and now, say some 58 people out working in the Bonavista plant, they were without EI because of the changes to the system itself, just based on unemployment numbers. Anything else this morning, Bob?
Well, do the plant owners deduct the union dues from the plant processors?
Yeah. The processing plants deduct union dues from the amount of money they pay to their harvester for, what in this case, crab. And then the plant pays the union the dues on behalf of the harvester.
What about when the processors are collecting unemployment? Do they deduct it out of that?
They are involved in EI as well, yeah. And they're not involved in CPP.
And when John Efford's father was in the business, he had a plant in every community. And there was people working. As one fellow complained, he's 30 years now working at the plant, and all of a sudden things are gone wrong. But that means for 30 years he's been getting extensions to his EI in one season, and getting make work projects in another season, and getting EI, and that's going on. So how can we compare ourselves to outside workers and clothes shop? All that has to change. It's probably going to change anyway. Now, outside buyers is changing the whole thing. It's making a big cartel, one big plant.
Well,
so, I mean, the government had to give. They said they're going to look into outside ownership. They had to give them the license in the first place, didn't they?
What's outside ownership? Ownership of what?
The plant, Royal Greenland bought the plant from Quinlan Brothers.
Yeah, that's right. That went through the processing,
so
the license.
The government had to give them a license.
That's right. The government rubber stamped what was brought forward by the licensing panel. Yeah, and that has began the extraordinary concern about the percentage of the industry controlled by foreign entities, which is a fair concern to be sharing. And I'm not 100% sure what some of that other stuff you said means, but like the concept of outside buyers, it's fine and dandy to say that they're going to allow it. And there's some 30 buying licenses applications in front of the government, and we're told 3 of them are for outside of the province buyers, but none of them have been approved. So in concept, all right, but in reality, it's not happening yet.
I I heard a fisherman being interviewed the other day. I won't say where he was from, but I like these blunt answers. And the guy that was interviewing him asked him, he said, why did his license get turned down? Well, he said, I'm not... he said, these big companies are paying money into the government, into the party. And he said, how, do you pay into it? He said, yes. He said, but I don't pay as much as them, he said. And that's what's controlling licenses being... it's all a big racket here now. It's all confusing and, oh my, it's just a headache. I tried to make some sense out of it all, but I'll have to go take a few aspirin.
I think we're on the same team there, because I've been trying to make sense of it for years, and it is a complicated, and some people might suggest there's an element of corruption and collusion and the like inside the industry as well. So at some point, someone has got to be brave enough and smart enough to fix it, because it's the same racket every single year about the exact same species, year over year over year. So it's rinse and repeat. Bob, I'm off to the news. I appreciate the call.
But I think removing closed shop would be the biggest. That would start everything, all start a whole big change.
Appreciate the call, Bob.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, Pat.
Pleasure. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break for the news. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. Marilyn, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
I'm doing okay. How about you? We can't hear you, Marilyn. Dave, I'm going to put her on hold. You want to just pick up and see what she's doing? All right, let's go line number 1. Mike, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I sent you a copy of the ATIP answer that I got with regarding expenses and that from Compass Group with Eastern Health. And I got basically not answered. They never answered my questions as regards to, of what I wanted. I wanted to know the percentage of increases that the Compass Group gets each year and the percentage of what. But they gave me the percentages, but no amount of what the percentage is.
But you didn't send me the actual results. You sent me, you forwarded me an email that simply said that the person, just first name only, Todd, sent you a note saying he's out of the office on Friday, he'll respond to you on Monday. But you didn't send me any results of the ATIP as far as I can tell. Or when did you send them?
Oh, that should have been on the top part of that. And I should have the top part at the bottom.
No, there's nothing else there. There's no attachment of any sort. All I said in your email says, what company pays their employees none of our business? What are we paying Compass for these 72 employees is our business. So no actual content of the access to information. If you resend it, I'll have a look.
Yeah, well, I'll resend it to you. But what I got you there, it's they're basically refusing to answer my questions as regards to the cost and how much we're given to the Compass Group. Like the office supplies, like what we paid the office supplies, went up 50% from 2022 to 2023, from 72,000 up to 103. Travel went up 50%. Computers went up to 20%. Telephone went up to almost 20%. We're paying them $84,000 a year. The increases that the Compass got for food, they got 23 in 2023. They got 12.5%. Environmental services got 5.3%. And they're saying the wages is as per collective agreement. There's no collective agreement with a contractor. That's in the contract that they get the cost of living or the consumer price index, whichever is the highest. So basically, the ATIP, the Stoletad, is not giving me the information that I'm asking for. What I want is, I'm not asking for the wages of the Compass Group employees. I'm asking what the government is paying for these employees to Compass. We don't care what.
Isn't that the same thing?
No. Like, I've got a company, and I pay my employees a percentage. What I make off the government on the contract is a totally different thing. Like, that's marked up 50%, 100%, or whatever. Like, if I got an employee and I'm paying him $30 an hour, I'm charging $150 an hour for him. So if the Compass employee is making $60,000 a year, what are we paying to the Compass Group for that employee? That's the question. Because we're paying about $1 million for a year to Compass for an employee that's making $60,000 a year, which is exorbitant. And government has got no way from this answer I got from ATIP. They don't know what the Compass is costing them. They don't know how to figure it out. So here you got an agreement, people there working, and the government, the Treasury Board and whatever, everybody responsible for paying out all this money and that, don't even know how much they're costing us.
They know. They're just not telling you.
Well, this is the thing. They're trying to say that they don't know, but, well, that's open for interpretation. Depends on how you say it, whether they're going to or they're not going to. I know they don't want to because they're ashamed of this contract. This contract is totally unbelievable of how much money they're taking out of this province. And every year, all the increases don't go to the employees of Compass Group. All these increases goes to the billionaires that own the company over in foreign countries. It's going out of the province. But nobody cares. Nobody's doing nothing about it. Nobody will say anything. We're all here quite committed. And then here you got the paramedics. I was listening to them on this morning. Like, it's pathetic that the increases that they're getting and the kind of increases that the government is giving to contractors. It's totally like these people are out there on the firing squad. They're out there hauling bodies of the ditches and out of burnt cars and out of everything. What? And the stuff that got to go through, traveling in dangerous situations and everything else. And here we got somebody that's buying bread from the mainland to supply our schools, $1 million a year.
Where are you getting $1 million from?
I got the $1 million from when this contract was signed. He said that it was $30 million a year the contract was worth for 10 years. The $1 million comes in at that time they had 30 employees. 30 employees, approximately 30, going into 30 million for 10 years is $1 million a year per employee. That's what they said when this thing was announced. So that's where I'm getting it to. Now, I've been asking the question all along. Am I wrong? Is it right? I'm asking this question again now. Am I wrong? Come out, tell me I'm wrong. But that's my calculations, that when this started, the contract was worth $30 million a year for 10 years. And then into that contract was all these increases, which totals 100% in 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, we're paying $2 million per employee. So, am I wrong? Tell me, but this is the information that they gave me, not something that I made up, something that was stated publicly. So all I want to do is confirm it that I've got it right. If I don't have it right, I apologize. Boys, come out and tell me that I'm wrong. But as far as I know, I can't get an answer that I'm wrong. I lays it out on the line. This is the question. Tell me, am I right? Am I wrong? So I've got to assume that no answer means confirmation. So
I appreciate the time. I wonder, when the Auditor General says they're going to have a look at the private contracts in health, people focusing on the travel nurses, and fair enough, we're not quite sure what contracts they will be looking at, but you can only hope that this one's on the list. I mean, it has to be. I mean, it's the biggest one, it's the most expensive one, it's the most lucrative one. If this is not included, then we're probably missed the boat, so to speak. I'll give you the last word, Mike, because I got to go.
I had this into the Auditor General before. She came back and said that it was inactionable. They cannot go to this contractor, and it's written into the contract that government has no entitlement to the deals that Cummins makes with other subcontractors. So the Auditor General can't go any further than look at on computer of what the provincial government got there.
Yeah, well,
Beyond that, their hands are tied.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
No, well, I mean, the relationship between the province and Compass Group can indeed give us an itemised audit of not only the performance audit, but the dollars and cents of the monies going out the door from the province to Compass. Compass's relationship with other subcontractors, I'm sure, I mean, the Auditor General of the province can't get involved in that. I mean, how could he or she? Mike, I do have to go, but I appreciate the time. Send along the actual content of that ATIP.
Will do.
Okay, Mike, thanks. All right, let's take a break. Hopefully Marilyn's back there to talk about the decision made by the province last week regarding World Energy GH2, basically the green light. No timeline for when they may begin construction, and I think Compass has said they've already spent some $120-something million on the project at this point. We know full well that there won't be a final investment decision until there's a bunch of things settled on the federal front, but Marilyn wants to talk about the World Energy GH2 after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. Marilyn, you are on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Not bad. How about you?
Oh, good. Thank you. I just want to talk about the decision made by Minister Bernard Davis last week to give World Energy GH2 the green light for the project here on the Port Peninsula and the Southwest Coast. He said that he is a good judge of the environmental impacts of the project. I don't agree with that statement. I mean, this project has never been done anywhere in the world, so there's no baseline data. So how can he be a good judge of it if it's never happened before? The 1 kilometer setback that he was so proud of that, the company decided on, and he was like congratulating the company on the 1 kilometer setback from our homes, is worrisome. And we've said this from day one. The company submitted the EIS and the government said it was deficient. The subsequent amendment was worse, and now they've given the green light, and those with conditions, but it's the same conditions that they've been asking for in the EIS and the amendment. So I don't know. I find that this government is reckless in giving this company permission, given the green light with these conditions when these important issues haven't been resolved. And when you look at this interview I did with John Mayfield on our ETC website, the video is there. He lives in Truro, Nova Scotia, and he lives on the Millbrook Wind Farm. He had bought 45 acres, him and his wife, and he moved there to retire, Patty. And he has an 80-meter wind turbine, and it's 1 to 1.5 kilometers from his home. And he's been miserable ever since that turbine has been located there. Now, ours is 200 meters. His is 80.
Miserable how?
Okay, so here he said, I asked him, how many days a week, and you can go and listen to his video, Patty. How many days a week does it bother you? He said in the spring and early fall, it's about 5 to 7 days of the week. 4 to 5 days, sorry. In the winter, it's 7 out of 7 that he's plagued, and here's what it sounds like. He said it's like someone idling a truck right outside the wall, like a big vibration. That's what it feels like and sounds like. And it's and when you're outside, that's when you're inside. When you're outside, it's like an airplane that just don't show up. It's just like flying back and forth and never lands, sort of thing. And he said in the winter, it's because the ice builds up on the blades. then there's a neighbor. He's 1.5 to 2 kilometers, and he hears it from his house as well. Now, he said the two main noises is the hydraulic sounds, which lasts about 10 to 12 seconds long. And he has 5 turbines. Now, he's on level land, 5 turbines. The blade noise, he said, he had an ice storm, and it lasted for 3 days, and he slept for about 4 hours. Now, the company there changed hands because I was asking them about mitigation, like, how does that work, and did you get any, any resolve from the company? So he said the company changed hands there, and he calls the company, and they have no solution, and sometimes they don't even respond to his request. So the problem here with us is, these are 654-foot wind turbines, 1 kilometer from our homes. No data on these turbines. And based on his dealings with it, we are scared to death, Patty, because this is going to be our reality. And when you look at wind turbines, wind concerns of Alberta, there was a Mark Mallet who did an interview with a scientist, environmental scientist, renowned, and she said the setback on these types of turbines for port-to-port is 10 to 20 kilometers from our homes.
Alberta's a different case story. Alberta simply doesn't want any renewables, period. Why? Because of the reliance on oil. I mean, there's not much more to it than that.
Yeah, but a science from all over the world, Patty. This is not just from Alberta. I'm just talking about her experience. And she wasn't from Alberta. He was the one that did the interview. It's on his website. And they're trying to educate people, and we're trying to educate this government because the close ties that they have with this proponent, I think, is blinding their views and their decision-making. And it's been like this from day one. I think it's reckless to put these turbines this close to our homes on mountaintops. And Tom Rose, the mayor of Stephenville, said it would be like putting 150 foundations, to build homes here on the peninsula, 1,600-foot foundations. And I mean, for a mayor to reference the wind turbines to 150 home foundations is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know of a home in the world that has 654 feet in the air that's going to be 200 kilometers of roads cleared to put down these turbines and have 6 million pounds of explosives in our mountains. So it's just ridiculous, and you know what? It's inhumane that they're trying to put this here, Patty, and it's so disappointing. And you have these Indigenous leaders who are the front and center of this project and have been from day one because they were invited to these early meetings, and their members haven't been. Benoit First Nation, Jason Benoit, has been promoting this over and over again, and his members are against this project. He did an online poll on his Facebook page, and when it got up to 60% against this project, he took down the poll. I didn't get a chance to vote, and many other members didn't get a chance to vote on that. So, you can put lipstick on a pig, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig, so it's still very concerning for us. I think it's reckless that this government is going ahead with this proposal, and these things aren't in place to protect the people. There has been lots of science and studies around the world. And like I said, this hasn't been done anywhere, so there's no data on it, but we do know that 1 kilometer from our homes is not safe, and it shouldn't be tolerated.
Would you have a different perspective if it was 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers? Because I get the feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you just don't want this to happen, period, regardless of mitigating conditions that are applied inside this conditional release of the project. So is it as fundamental as you don't want this, period, versus buffer zones?
The scale and size of the project is too big for the Port-au-Port Peninsula. The amount of turbines, the size of the turbines, and the detrimental effects that it will have on our peninsula. And it's a fragile peninsula. We've seen it with the floods recently. We have CEMEX Materials here, a large, industry, and we are already seeing lots of effects of, climate change. So if we're going to have a company coming in, taking the peat moss off the mountain and the bog and clearing all these 200 kilometers throughout our peninsula, then we're susceptible to increased floods, mudslides, rock slides. I sent you that email, Patty, about that one area in March's Point where that rock cliff is. And if you zoom in on those rocks on the side of the road, you'll see them all coming down. Have you looked at it, Patty?
I have. I think I replied to that email.
Yeah, you did. But if you look closely, you'll see those rocks there on the side of the road. And I mean, it's like it's a mountain. And when you look at it, like that could come down at any time. But those turbines are going to be going straight up from that rock cliff. And with the blasting and everything else, that whole mountain can come down. These are all dangerous areas. These are all concerns. But it's not a matter of not putting this in my backyard. This size of project should not be put in anybody's backyard, especially when there's no data on it anywhere in the world, Patty. Why should we be the sacrificial lambs for this experimental project?
I understand your concerns, Marilyn, and I appreciate the time. Before I get to the news, would you like to say anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, Patty. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye. Bye. All right, time for the news. When we come back, Clay wants to respond to a call from John about being able to bring, or not being able to bring, meat from Labrador to the island. We're talking salmon, crab, and then there's a person there who wants to send out a bouquet to the grandson. For what? We'll find out. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Cyril, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Patty.
Hi there.
Yeah, I call in there now. You was wondering about the fishery there, why they haven't got things fixed up long before this. Well, first of all, I spent a lifetime fishing. I spent a lifetime going around the meetings and every rally that you could go to try to get better things for the money and that for the fishery and things to change. So I got a little bit of experience there. But anyway, getting back to mostly it's the fish plant, the ASP or whatever you might call them. It's Patty, if it was only a few $1,000s or even $1 million, you could see things changing overnight. They would fix this, especially when they in a run of a crab season where they dumps away thousands of pounds, probably even $1 million weight, into one of them big fish plants of crab lying around in the parking lots.
Yeah, there's something like 126 million pounds is the total allowable catch this year. Is that? I think that's the number.
Yeah, something like that. Now I've been out of the fishery now for a few years. I'm retired, but I still follows it and everything. But you take to go like last year, I almost lost the fishery and everything. Well, the plants don't want to give it up, because it's going to set a precedence for years to come. Because if they'd have come in years ago and brought in a nice formula that the fishermen could live with and everything, maybe they would have been lost not $1 million but billions. Because this is where millions and millions of dollars from now. They were talking something like $28 million just this year alone. If they give the fishermen what they wanted. Yeah,
they're talking about the gap between 260 and 283 with their numbers being considered at that point. And yes, I thought it was $19 million would be, or $30 million would be lost to the harvester. That's right.
Yes, and now now they're gone off with $3 a pound, but they still haven't got a formula brought in for next year or the next year down the road. I had people on your broadcast there talking about up in Alaska. They've had a formula brought in now 16 years. That the fisherman is living with.
Yeah, it took them a couple of years to hammer it out, but then, of course, it became airtight, and each side knew exactly what they're getting into every season, and they just went fishing.
That's right. Well, that's like the year. There's no time lost yet because, like I said, I spent years on the water at the crab, and well, we never ever went at it before up around the 20th, and some people even a bit later. But there was a lot more plants then. When some of the big ones, the berries and the quinlins and everything, started buying up plants and closing down. Because I remember we fished first years we started fishing. We fished in Carolina. Down in Trouty, they had a big plant. Claremont was opened up there was, I know they didn't do crab, but they had a lot of workers up there. We could jump aboard the car any day and go down to Bonavista and see the tractor trailers lined it up then. They were taking in a lot of crab. And even back then they were saying, you got to slow down the crab and everything. And it was a lot of plants then. So I'm anchoring. They showed on the NTV News a while ago, dumping out a box of black crab. I'm making no wonder they should have had tons of it because I know now they can't process all the crab that's coming in. You just can't do it. But anyway, getting back to this formula thing, I don't think I haven't been out around much today. But when I was out, I had some of the fishermen saying that it's we're still going to be going back to square one again next year.
Feels like it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's see, Paddy, you know what I mean. Logic tells there. If you was only talking $1 million or so dollars, they would have hammered it out rather than be dumping crab. But there must be weighed millions and millions to the fish plant owners, not to bring in some kind of system better than what it is. You know, I do know it is over the years because I've worked around people was tied to the union, going to rallies and everything, and I know that. The fish plant owners, they don't want to crack not one bit because they don't want to give the union any satisfaction there. We know that. But I guess if they did, other things is going to change. We had a few boats there last week, was at the hearing, for 15 cents a pound. You know, man, come on, this day and age, you're going to taking a boat and seines and everything, the stuff that they use as causes a fortune, 15s. They're going to go at the Cape on one of those days. And I've seen it down so low as 6 cents, 10 cents. You know, you spend a full season. I know way back in the day we spent months. I know one time, I think it was almost 8 weeks at the Cape. And for what? You know what I mean? Lucky if you want to walk off with $12,000 or $15,000, like as a crew member, and it's just ridiculous what the and back in them days you still spent months and months trying to get a price and almost lose a capelin fishery over a cent or two, because I know those people used to be on the negotiations. You go, boy, what's taking so long? What's on the go? Boy, well, they're off on 12, and we're trying to get 15. They won't give them 3 cents. You know, so I guess there's a thing. If they give the union their own way for one little thing, I suppose they figure they got it all gone. You know, and when them fisheries was over, you see those guys who owns the plants spending tens and thousands of dollars in their business, and the guy who owned the boat and was out there, he couldn't afford a gallon of paint to put paint on it. So, you know, it's just things just got to change, and the same thing is going to eat today. You heard some of the boys was out there on negotiations telling about the same thing, and the same thing I know it is. Same thing goes on around here. You know, I goes to the wharves every day and watches people fixing their boats. Well, I'm going to do that now this year, but next year I got a bigger job. I can only afford to do this little thing every year. So you know what I mean, and that's on the go. So as far as I'm concerned, that they let it go too quick. I think that they should have had something put in place that next spring, when the first day of April, everybody put their pots in the water. But it seems like next year, back to square one.
Let's hope not, because they committed last year to fix the process, and then the 11th hour they changed the process again back to the old flawed process. So unless they hammer out something akin to what happened in Alaska, which I'm glad you brought that up because I spoke to that last week, until they figured out for the long term, we're going to have the same racket every year.
Same
thing every time.
Single year. Like I said, we started off back in the 80s when the cabling, because I live in an area where was I guess probably the first cabling was ever sold over side sales, and they went on from there. I'm proud to say this, that the first mackerel was ever put in a barrel and everything come from this area here, that people got barrels and salt them and shipped the mackerel overseas. Most of Newfoundland didn't even know what a mackerel was. When they come first, they didn't even know what to call it. And you know what I mean. I come from a big fishing area years ago, and some of the people lives next door to me who helped to get this crab license on the go, and went up through there. So you know what I mean. We're dedicated our lives to it, but seems like the fish companies, they just don't want to give up 5 cents. Not 5 cents.
Well, of course not. Both sides want what they want when they want it. The harvesters want more for the product, and the processors will be happy to pay as little as possible. Why? Yeah. For the obvious reasons. Profitability for both. Yeah. Sarah, I got to get going, but I appreciate your call this morning.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Betty. Listen to
Take care. Right. Bye-bye. Before the break, let's go to line number 5. A caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi there.
I called in just to see if I could get the name of... I heard the commercial on your station. There was a company or a group giving Island Furniture a big donation. They employ a lot of developmentally delayed people. Yeah, no, Island Furniture is giving $300,000 to the Vera Berlin Society. Yeah. And the fellow at Island Furniture, his COO is Jerry Senior. Yes, yeah. But I just want to let people know if there's ever fundraising or anything for any, either on Vera Berlin or Island Furniture to give. It's a wonderful companies they have, and these people that get jobs, they wouldn't get a job anywhere else. My brother worked with Island Furniture for 40 years and retired. And, there's no way he would have gotten a job anywhere else and gotten paid regular wages like everybody else. So, people should keep in mind that these two places, Island Furniture and Vera Berlin, are certainly dealing with these people who can't go anywhere else. Yeah, folks with intellectual disabilities, and you're right, what Vera Berlin is doing and the support coming from Island Furniture, not only with this money, but the fact they are employing people with intellectual disabilities, is terrific. Bravo for both. Yes, it is. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Okay, bye. All right, bye-bye. All right, let's take our final break of the morning. When we come back, we're talking salmon season, and Brian's got a big bouquet. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Junior, you're on the air. Thank you, Patrick, for taking my call, and happy Monday to you and David. Same to you. Patrick, our group just got an email from DFO. Of course, we're the Salmon Watchers Assistance Group, totally against catch and release. And with the salmon season opening the same this year as it did last year, retention of 2, catch and release of 3 daily, we're sounding the alarm now, Patty, on catch and release. What our salmon numbers are so low, Patty, even the death of one salmon for pleasure is nowhere near conservation, and yet catch and release is killing thousands of our salmon every year. And based on science, Patty, right here in Newfoundland, catch and release is not conservation. Well, there's lots of things inside of catch and release. There's water temperature being probably the key element that has to be considered. And then there's the whole concept of how long and hard the fish is played, how long it's kept out of the water for the photographs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And you are right, Patty. And now with our climate change
and water temperatures getting as high as they are. It means we have, this science was done, by the way, on one of the calmest rivers in Newfoundland over on Western Brook. If you watch the videos, it's nowhere near the exploits or Gander or the Humber or the Pimmer in Labrador. If that science was based on either one of those four rivers, that mortality rate would be really, really high, even with water temperatures below 18 degrees. And Patty, even though we have 18 degrees as a set temperature for no more catch and release, there's no stopping it at 18 degrees. Even our government advises people not to catch and release when water temperatures are above 18. But it still goes on, and water temperatures are showing us right now that as it gets above 18 degrees, the mortality rate of salmon is just climbing higher and higher and higher. Like you're talking 50% at 21 or 22 degrees, 60% at 24 degrees. And our rivers last year, if I'm not mistaken, reached 27 degrees. This salmon is trying to get some air somewhere in his lungs. So, we are sounding the alarm. We're sounding the alarm on our salmon stocks are so low, and we're just basically, Patty, Newfoundland, Labrador, we produce 70% of all the wild Atlantic salmon in North America, and we are probably, to the best of my knowledge, the only province in Canada that has not banned the retention angler. Catch and release goes on in every other province. They have nowhere near the salmon that we have. If catch and release worked, Patty, the Mirasheen River in New Brunswick would have 1 million salmon up there right now. And according to a study, now, Patty, a study based on the West Coast by the Bay St. George Stewardship Group from 2003 to 2016, they had retention angling only on their river. DFO allowed them to catch and release, not catch and release, but to have retention angling only. And their numbers improved by 100%. There was that many salmon over there. Then in 2017, DFO said, well, you got that many salmon now, we'll allow catch and release on your salmon, on your rivers again. And their rivers are declining now every year since 2017. So it's just a warning out there to the Newfoundland angler that we are killing our salmon, and when it gets so low, we'll have the Minister of Fisheries coming here reporting the famous words of John Crosby saying, I never killed your GD salmon, or John Crosby said the cod. But that's what it'll be, and we'll be looked at as, I don't know, Patty, we'll be looked at as a stupid newfie for doing what we're doing. But we are killing thousands and thousands of salmon through catch and release.
Yeah, I mean, the counts on the rivers, of which there's some 21 rivers they count returns here in this province, even out of the 4 they count in Labrador, 2 have fallen off. So whatever we're doing, whether it be phytoplankton or sea temperature or catch and release or whatever the case may be, the salmon returns are way down.
They are, Patty. We have 50% of our rivers are in the cautious or the critical zone. So, and the retention angler, I mean, he's only allowed 2. So he has a body count. When he sends in his report, he has a body count. To catch and release, Patty, there is no definition for catch and release. You can catch and release 100 salmon during the course of the season. You can catch 6, 7 and release them a day. If you're ever taken to court, this is not standing up in court. There's no definition. So, and one time it used to be hook and release. If you hooked and you lost, and then that was your one salmon for the day.
Yeah.
Now basically it's catch and release or live release. You got to take them in, show that you're doing it properly, and there is no way of doing it properly, Patty. Everything depends on the length of time you play that salmon, and a hooked salmon is an injured salmon, and he will never swim upstream when you release it. Never. He's that tired. He's just looking for a place to rest. No different than any other creature. They're just once they're damaged, and everything depends on how much they're damaged. Internally with a salmon could mean a broken air bladder, and that's a dead salmon. Nobody sees it, but it does the heart good to see it swim away.
I appreciate the time this morning, Junior. Thanks for the heads up.
Patty, I appreciate for you letting me on the air to air my concerns. You and David have a great day.
The very same to you. Thanks, Junior.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Let's throw final word this morning goes to line number 4. Good morning, Brian. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Good morning to you.
First of all, I'd like to comment on the last caller. I'm a salmon fisher, and I do not believe in catch and release.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I'm calling today is I want to give a huge congratulations to my grandson, Brandon Joy from CBS. He was selected in March to play for Team Canada in the International Blind Hockey Tournament. And they just played that tournament the weekend in St. Louis, and they won the gold medal.
I was trying to find some information because I heard last week that your grandson was playing for Team Canada in St. Louis, but they won. Fantastic.
Yeah, they won the gold medal, and I tell you, back in 2018, we went to Pittsburgh. I went with Brandon to watch the first International Blind Hockey Tournament, the first one in 2018. And he said to myself and my son that he said, one day, he said, I'm going to lift that trophy and get a gold medal. And he's worked hard at it for the last 2 years. He went to the gym every day, never missed a day. He had a personal trainer, and it was wonderful to see him on the weekend get his gold medal and lift that trophy and skate around the ice. I was so proud of him.
I bet you were. Congratulations to him. Make sure you pass along my hearty congratulations. I've seen blind hockey being played. It's very similar to what we would call, say, traditional hockey. The biggest difference, of course, is the puck. So it makes a lot of noise, number one. It's bigger. It moves slower than a so-called traditional hockey puck. The goalies, too. So what percentage of vision loss does your grandson have?
5%.
5%. So, I mean, even the goaltenders. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brandon got 5% vision during the day, but at night he's totally blind.
Amazing accomplishment. And the goaltenders either extremely low vision or completely blind, and if not, they have to wear a blindfold.
That's right. If the goaltender has any vision whatsoever, he must wear a blindfold over his eyes so he cannot see.
The puck makes a big noise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's metal tin, and it's got 8 ball bearings inside of it.
Right.
And, I just thought I'd bring it on. And Brandon is due home tomorrow at 12:30. And anybody that would like to go out to the airport and congratulate him and wish him home, I would appreciate it.
And if Brandon would like to call and tell us about the tournament and his love of blind hockey, happy to have him on the show.
Yeah, I think VOCM do have something lined up.
Oh, good.
I'm not sure what it is, but they were supposed to do it last week, but things got, delayed and whatever. And but anyway, I just wanted to bring it on the air and let everybody know that blind hockey. People probably say, how can they play blind hockey? But I wish people knew the weekend that they could have watched that on Streamline.
I wish I had to know myself, but I'm pleased at least that I found out about it today. Anything else very quick, Brian, before they run me out of time?
Yeah. Well, just one thing, Brandon is another Newfoundlander that made a Team Canada.
Yes, sir.
And he's the first one for blind hockey.
Wonderful accomplishment. Congratulations to the whole family.
Okay, thank you very much, Patty.
You're welcome, Brian. Bye-bye. How about that? Way to go, Brandon. All right, good show today. Big thanks for everyone who supports the program, and we will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.